All right, welcome to the podcast. So excited for today's guest. We've got the filmmaker from a Shudder original History of Evil, Bo Mirhosseni. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This is so awesome. So I got to watch it. I enjoyed the film.
Awesome.
Um, and you've got what a great cast on there, man. You've got Paul Wesley, who was Captain Kirk in Strange New Worlds,
hmm
and Jackie Cruz, who was one of my favorites from Orange is the New Black. So you got like a hell of a cast on there. I just kind of want to get a little bit of your origin story and what brought you to the project.
Yeah, so I kind of started off. I grew up in Long Beach, California, and was really involved in the skate scene there, doing a lot of skate videos, and kind of transitioned from that to directing music videos and commercials. And commercials and music videos are paying the bills. But then I always loved writing. Um, Not necessarily like loved doing it because it could be painful, but I enjoyed what can come from it.
Mm.
And started, writing various scripts. Most of them I would just like, not finish or, you know, couldn't figure out how to get
Been
past
there.
the first act. Yeah. Um, so I kind of try to find a story that's very personal to me. And the origin of this script is basically from my mother's experience.
Oh,
I was born in Iran. I was born in
okay.
Tehran, and I came to the U.S. when I was one. Um, but before I was born, the Iranian Revolution went down in the late '70s, and my mother and father were both extremely active against the regime. The regime
Okay.
was like brutal, and I mean, still is to this day. So I I started writing this contained family drama, um, set around the revolution and these activists and the inner sort of drama of a family
Okay.
where the parents are activists and they're focused on activism, but they also have to raise kids. But I was like, this is kind of feeling a little too uh, heavy. Not that History of Evil isn't heavy, but heavy without any sort of like entertaining, elements to it.
Gotcha.
Um, so I'm a big genre nerd, and I decided to kind of like fuse the genre elements with this contained family drama, and it kind of like ended up being History of Evil.
I enjoyed it. You've got some good scares in there, so obviously you are a fan of horror. I really enjoy the world you set up. I feel like from just being a viewer of the film, there's so much more you can explore in this world you've created. Have that is that something that you've thought of?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, there was a lot more I wanted to do. We were on a limited budget and resources, being, a small
Yeah.
independent film. Um, there were so many things in some of the earlier drafts that were super cool to help build out the world, but it just wasn't possible on this scale of a film.
Yeah.
But also, I think the budget restrictions and the limited resources help me be scrappy and be on my toes and have to like force myself to think of creative, solutions, um, workarounds. So yeah, I think in the end it definitely paid off in some way.
I thought it was great. I think the plastic bag was super creepy. So
Yeah, yeah,
so there's some good solutions there and some I always find myself when I'm writing that when I am put into a box and I only have so many limitations, it makes me far more creative, and usually the result of that is something special. So that's kind of something that you felt with this.
yeah. And I mean, like I said, this is my first film.
Hmm.
It's it's not the first script I wrote, but it's obviously the first script I've written that got made.
Yeah.
Um, and I learned so much, so much. It's like the whole right to budget thing.
Oh
Um,
man.
it's like I got that, but on steroids, like knowing really like what you can do to a budget. I would write it down, in the script, and I'd be like, this is possible. We can do this, like with our budget or,
Yeah.
whatever resources we have. But it really forced me to think creatively and also um, think differently. Like, how can I do the same scene, get the same emotional outcome out of it that I
Yeah.
want, but make it work. And also not the thing with scale, you were talking about the world building,
Yeah.
is you got to be careful because if you write something down on paper that's really big, but then you go to shoot it, and I kind of experienced this a little bit, was like you might suffer. It might it might look not right. It might look like,
Mhm.
it's a little too thin where it needs to be big. You can see through the seams a little bit. um so you got to be careful with that kind of stuff. It's hard. It's hard to do world building on an independent film, but you know that's just part of the challenge, of independent filmmaking, I guess.
I think looking at the film, I mean, to me, it all seems very grounded in a very real potential future. I mean, having fueled such a having seen things like January 6th and things like that
Mhm.
really kind of go to the extreme. So did you find yourself almost kind of looking at, okay, where can things really go, and let's write from that perspective?
um yeah, a little bit. I think that definitely influenced it,
Yeah.
to a degree. uh to be honest with you, a lot of the um like the stuff with the militia,
Yeah.
that was lifted from the initial drafts that were set in Iran with these, like,
Wow.
guards going into people's homes. I
Yeah.
mean, that happened to my parents. Guards would come into their house
Wild.
and look for like resistance paperwork or materials or books,
Yeah.
revolutionary books, stuff like that. And if they find any, they arrest you and they take you. Um,
Wild.
so that was shocking to me. Was like I was writing this
Yeah.
set in near future America, but I was like, oh, this actually happened in Iran too. Like it mirrored each other. Like
Yeah.
it's
And,
terrifying.
and seeing it from an American perspective is really quite upsetting, because it's like, man, that can really happen. So I think
Mhm.
it's great that to see it in your film, to see like, okay, we need to be like super careful. So can you walk me through, how you were able to nail stars like Paul Wesley and Jackie Cruz?
Yeah. So the script, Shudder presented me with a list of talent that I um, got to take a look at, and
Nice.
we sent the script out to Paul Wesley, who also happened to be a friend of one of the producers. So
Okay.
that was like a good connection there that we had. I didn't know Jackie or Paul at all from before this film.
Okay.
Paul read the script, he loved it. He was able to relate to it through his own personal stories and family experiences. Um, Jackie kind of saved the day. We had someone else casted
Oh,
before Jackie, and she had to drop out for whatever scheduling conflicts or something
yeah.
came up. So we went to Jackie, and Jackie turned out to be amazing because she was or is a bit of an activist herself, so she was able to bring that to the film. She had also just given birth to two babies 3 months before filming, so she brought that motherly
Yeah.
sort of experience to her character. But yeah, we sent it out to them, and they signed on. And as soon as they signed on, things started moving really quick. And
Wow.
the rest of the casting was done locally in Louisiana, where we shot the film.
Okay. When you wrote this, did you pitch it to Shudder?
No, so I wrote this. I sent it to a buddy of mine,
Uh-huh.
Jake Siegel, who is actually one of the producers on the film.
Okay.
He, I knew Jake through commercials.
Oh, okay.
Uh, he would like assist me, help me in writing commercial treatments when I was pitching on commercials. He read the script, and he was roommates with one of the guys from XYZ Films. So he emailed it to Pip over at XYZ, and he was like, "Yo, this script is like, you know, super
Awesome.
scary. It's relevant. Blah blah blah. Just read it." So Pip read it, and I get a phone call from Pip, and he's like, "This is awesome." Like, I actually knew Pip. I found out I didn't connect the dots, but I
Yep.
knew Pip from like a few months back because Pip was an EP on a Red Bull commercial
Yeah.
thing I was pitching on, or I was going to do. Um, so, anyways, Pip brought in Two and Two, which is Lukin Toe and Babak Anvari's company, and we all kind of joined forces,
Wow.
and it went through development for many years until finally um, they brought in Shudder, and Shudder read it. They really liked it, and they decided to finance it.
Can I ask you, script to screen, how many years?
Um, I think it's 8 years.
Wow. Are you serious?
Script to screen, yeah, it was about
Oh my
four,
God.
4, 5 years of development.
Wow.
And then yeah, like
And it is so timely right now, 8 years later.
8 years later, exactly. Yeah,
My mind is absolutely blown right now, Bo.
yeah,
Because I mean, 8 years ago, I would have thought, oh, but now, like sitting down, like, well, I mean, I feel like, wow, this could really happen. So it's just
yeah,
that is absolutely correct. But it's really fascinating. It's kind of seeing how everybody came together to make this thing happen. And you're right, when it happens fast, and that's when you
yeah.
know it's a good thing. So, what kind of advice do you have? Any advice you have for any filmmakers out there looking to make their own stuff?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of writing, um, you know, I don't know. I don't consider myself like an expert master writer by any means.
Sure,
This is my first
director.
film.
Yeah.
Um, it's my first feature script. So I always feel a little weird like giving advice because but like I can my own experience is uh listen to your like emotions, I guess, and listen to what you're going through.
Okay.
I was having some like issues with my parents at the time
Oh,
and some personal stuff there, which kind of like feeded into the script a little bit with like their daughter and the dynamics there. So
right.
kind of like if you're going through a breakup, like listen to that. If your parents are splitting up, listen to that. Whatever it is, like if you got stuff going on at work, like listen to that and bring that into the script. The other thing too is I don't know what other there's so many different advices, but write what you like. Like I love horror, I love genre. I love dystopian stuff, like
Yeah.
Orwellian futures and like, you know, I love disruption in films. Like, one of the references was Children of Men, um,
Oh, sure.
and Army of Shadows, which is an older Jean Pierre Melville film.
Yeah.
But yeah, like write what you like to see because I think that's where the passion comes from and that's what excites you. Yeah,
Yeah, I definitely saw that as influence. I saw a little bit of like an Amityville influence in there, so I could
yeah,
see like you're going for that.
yeah,
And I just love the title of History of Evil. I really feel like this is something you could really branch out and have a franchise going with, because you can be so broad with it.